That's some good consistency right there. That is like peanut butter and jelly together consistency.
That is right. Just the 179, episode 179. A Bullet Films podcast, people. I am Splinter47, joining you as always, and with me, C.H. Gorog here.
Hello, ladies and germs.
Always glad to hear the voice of the great C.H. the Gorog from the Force Unleashed 2.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm not retconned out of the podcast.
Yeah, I never made mention to that in The Force Awakens, so it's a lot of retconning going on these days.
Part of me is like, I really wish they didn't do that because there's a lot of good stuff in the Force canon because it's been around for so long. There's been video games, there's been novels, there's been comic books, and it's like, yeah, that's good. On the other hand, they're just like, do you know how much crap there is in the Star Wars universe that they don't even try to deal with? Like a mountain that cries, that can, like the tears can actually recover any wound, or like the zombies that they have that they never really explain. And it's like, listen, they're just tired. It's like, listen, we gotta start over from scratch because this is just getting ridiculous.
Damn, that's a lot of high fantasy things going on there. That sounds more like beyond sci-fi at this point.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin probably had a cameo appearance in there somewhere. It's like, no, we need to have them White Walkers. I don't know why he sounds like Danny DeVito in that impression. No, you gotta understand, it's White Walkers.
Well, that's reminded me of that South Park episode. He always was saying, always wanted to include penis in every faceted of story he's written.
Or it's like, don't worry, the pizza is coming. You just gotta wait.
Yeah.
yeah, because that is something that they do in the show, where it's like they have like scenes of teasing of the White Walkers or the dragons, and like they don't really do much except like, oh, it's coming. Just wait for it. Be good. Like it'll be coming. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, an endless tease with just not anything living up to what they're teasing right now. We'll just have to see when the newer season comes out this year. It's going to be very interesting, the approach they're going to take.
Yeah, the new one is beyond the most recent season. I mean, the most recent book. So they'll have to start either... I would like to think that they didn't actually... you know how they got the rights to the TV series because they guessed who Jon Snow's lineage is, and they got it right. And I like to think that's the only information they have in like past the books, so like now they're just like adapting like story material out of their butts, and they don't really know what they're doing. It's like, oh yeah, and we've got cyborg Ned Stark here. Oh, and also it's like Jaime Lannister is also part dragon. It's like, did we tell you about that? It's like, no, you didn't. You probably shouldn't have because you've ruined the character.
Yeah, seems like a whole lot of mystery regarding some of these characters that even if we did find out officially through the show or the book, I don't know how much of a difference it will make. Like Jon Snow's mother, I don't know how much that's going to help him in the battles to come.
Who knows? He might be able to claim the throne if he's got the right lineage. Who knows?
Well, knowing the show, no one gives a damn about lineage. They all just kind of... Whoever's got the most pull will be king or queen.
That is kind of true.
Tell that to Stannis.
Yeah, well, tell whatever remains of him. I'm not sure if he's alive or dead or what happens, but it's very interesting because like people are just using like the flimsiest excuses for why they're king. It's like, well, my cousin's aunt's best friend's cousin, half brother was king, so therefore I have claim to the kingdom.
It's not as simple as the Lion King, all just one person, little kid wanted to be a king. That's all he wanted to be. Just simple as that.
Sang about it, and
Simba.
He was a jerk to his dad.
Well, a little bit. Well, he's a kid. He was just lashing out.
Yeah,
as any kid would, and they learned their lesson the hard way.
Remember, kids, if you're mean to your parents, someone's gonna kill them.
That was just the moral of the story, a little bit, and it's at a time where a lot of Disney movies don't get as dark as that anymore. But still,
Yeah.
they still tug at your heart. They still tug at your heartstrings, but it doesn't. They don't get as dark as that, especially with a lot of the older stuff of Disney from the '90s, and that's when animation was
Yeah.
at its height. I still think it's not. It's still at its height. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff coming out that we don't.
Yeah, it's
Not a lot of
just
people don't know about, but Disney and then the stuff from Studio Ghibli still coming out. I ended up actually got to see the what was the movie that Studio Ghibli that got nominated for? It was the Marnie Was Here. I think it was Marnie Was Here.
Marty was here.
Marnie, something like that. I gotta look it up. If Kat can hear me over here, she might be screaming this out. Not Dear Marnie. Marnie was here. Maybe
Dear John Marnie.
Dear John Marnie. When
Marnie the dinosaur.
when Marnie Was Here. That's one of the Studio Ghibli movies that's nominated for Best Animated Picture, along with Shaun the Sheep. I love Shaun the Sheep. That movie was so good.
I have not seen Shaun the Sheep. That's the same studio that made Wallace and Gromit, right?
Yeah, Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run. I mean that movie started out as like I wouldn't even say it was even a show. It was like they were like little 5-minute segments that they would air on the Disney Channel, and then they just kind of spawned from there. And they're always really good with that too. Like there's not a lot of claymation movies out these days, but they always do it right. They always know how to do it right.
And from what I can remember about, I think that Coraline was claymation, but there was one of the recent. It was a movie that looked like claymation, but it turned out to be like it was actually digital. But they made it so that, like they would even have like thumbprints on the character models in between like frames to make it look like it was claymation. It was like they went out of their way. It's like you guys could have just spent all that money on actual claymation, right? Like you don't need to talk about hipsters.
Yeah. It was certainly a very good movie. I liked it a lot than I thought I would, especially for a movie where the main characters or the sheeps, they don't talk at all. They're all just very silent. They make their noises, but it's very much a physical performance and physical actions being taken place that drive the story. But it was very enjoyable. If you love that studio that does Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit, you'll absolutely love Shaun the Sheep. When Marnie Was There, it was very good too. I enjoyed it. I saw too Inside Out. I liked it for what it was. I wasn't too hyped up about it like everyone else was. I personally, I know Kat will yell at me for saying this because we're going to be trying to do our own little contest amongst each other about deciding who we think who's gonna win and who we want to win for Oscar stuff. And personally,
I'm gonna bet on who gets the most.
Yeah, personally, I enjoyed Shaun the Sheep the most. I think it's the best out of the list there. And Marnie Was There with a close second. Is very good too.
Mm.
I think Inside Out is a little overrated. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you know what I thought was, watching Inside Out, I thought the emotion stuff, like with all the characters, that was well done, and I really liked that, and I also liked the story with them, and with from their perspective trying to deal with Riley's homesickness and everything.
Right.
When it went to the real world, it just wasn't that interesting. I mean, a lot of it was more or less the setup of the emotional problems, and it's such a weird idea because she's kind of instrumental, but also the least interesting. It's kind of like how I felt about the Animus in the Assassin's Creed games, where it's kind of the framing device for the narrative, but it's kind of the least interesting thing you have in there.
Yeah, it's especially it kind of was interesting, especially when you're introduced to it in the beginning. Like they had a lot of potential to go many different ways. What the mistake they did was having it be the crutch of the series and making it more important than we were than we ended up finding out it to be, because it really
Mhm.
a lot of the best moments of the Assassin's Creed games were when you're not in the Animus.
Yeah.
A good amount of it. I know that they were also trying to do another separate side story in conjunction with the main story you follow with the assassin you play as. I mean, primarily with Ezio and everything. You know, you're so into it, and then and then sometimes they'll get broken up between
Oh, Desmond.
like a good cliffhanger in Ezio's story, and then it gets thrown right in back to the Animus. They should forget that all. And they kind of have. They kind of like polished over kind of what they did with the Desmond storyline. I know that there's still Animus related things in the recent Assassin's Creed games, but I hear it's not as prevalent or as much as it was in the previous games, because they led that story with the Animus and Desmond to be it led it to be so much hype, and you had so much interest and promise in some respects, because you were playing throughout the whole series, and the way that it ended, it was just a big stinker.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big wet fart. That's what it was.
They originally said they had the ending for, for for a trilogy, and then there's like, oh my god, this is really successful. We need to spread this out, and so they had the Brotherhood and the Revelations, and then with the 3, they're just like, okay, let's get rid of everything people don't like, which include Desmond, even though he had such potential to be an interesting character, and they didn't do anything with him. And it was just like this thing of like, okay, how do we spread this out, and how do we make it so that people still like us? And it was like this weird compromise. It was kind of a jack-of-all-trades compromise, where it's like, okay, we'll keep the Animus, we'll keep the weird precursor humans in there, also the gods. I don't know, but it was like this weird crux of we got this historical fiction, which people really like, this mythological fiction, which people are kind of don't know what we're doing, because we don't provide a whole lot of context for that, and just this constant. Anyway, I feel like it would definitely serve them better if they wrapped up kind of the current times timeline, like if they decided to make it a current day Assassin's Creed, and then just did away with anything else, and then just make solo stories taking place in like India or Australia or Japan or Brazil, with the factions, and just doing something different.
Yeah, it's certainly time to try different locations. I know they're always doing that with the newer ones, and to hear that they're not. I don't think they're. I think from what I remember hearing, they're not putting out a main Assassin's Creed title this year.
No,
which is a big plus. Give them enough time to work on whatever they're doing, and at least have some assurance of stability and actually consistency in what they want to do. Because I feel like Ubisoft they've been falling a little bit on the wayside in terms of the quality of the games, in terms of like rushing things out and not pushing themselves to do something different. And I certainly don't want that if they're going to be doing this more with Assassin's Creed. It seems like, because it's their moneymaker, I understand this. It just feels like they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything innovative that we haven't seen before. And I really wish that they would put that on the back burner for a little bit and do something new, or do another Splinter Cell game, because that's the one thing that they have been consistent with. And even then, I'm afraid that they'll even try to milk that series. Although it's very, very popular amongst a lot of fans, and especially may not be as high selling as Assassin's Creed, but there's still a good amount of people that want more Splinter Cell in some capacity. Not even with Sam Fisher at this point. I mean, I'm fine with it, with re-aging him and making him younger, but I want another Splinter Cell game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, Blacklist was very well received. It got good sales. I mean, I really think that the publishers have a chronic problem of not seeing their sales as good. It's like, well, it didn't sell Call of Duty, so it's a failure. And what was it, like a Capcom or no, Square Enix was not happy with Tomb Raider and Sleeping Dogs, because of like they only sold like X millions number of copies, and it's just like, wow, you guys have a very poor definition of what a success is. And with Splinter Cell, there's a dedicated following. There are people who really do love it. I mean, to constantly reiterate and put new entries into your franchise, you're going to get return investments on people who really dig that. With Sam Fisher, it was kind of that weird area after Conviction, where it's like, okay, now we can retire Sam Fisher, and they brought him back, and it was sort of a soft reboot because it was like, okay, he's younger. I would almost like it to be a reboot where it was like, okay, now this is going to be, like James Bond or Jack Reacher or who is he? I'm trying to remember who did. Oh, Jack Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Where it's this character, and you can constantly put him in new political situations with kind of roughly the same job.
It's very similar to that. Like it's to the effect of it's the same character, but played by sometimes a different actor, and it's never acknowledged like what their age is in terms of that. And I know what the last Splinter Cell Blacklist, it was absolutely, I would say it was a predecessor or a sequel to Conviction because they had Andre Coben in it, but they never acknowledged a whole lot beyond that point other than Andre Coben being in the game. And they never really talk about Sam's age anymore. It doesn't seem like it's consistent anymore. It's like it's in this weird cycle, in this weird other, like
every other iteration.
It's like another, it's like another multiverse, or they changed his design to benefit what they're going for in the game or the story, but they never really. They're not even referring to how long he's been in active duty anymore. Hello. And we lost CH, but like I was saying, they don't refer to hello.
Hi, how you doing? That was
yeah, that was weird too. That's one off for today. Let's see if we can keep that at one.
Yeah, let's try to keep that at. That's the quota we reached, and hopefully we don't have to do that again.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that like it's
multiverse.
It's like a multiverse. Like it's just like another universe where Sam maybe is younger, but they never refer to how long he's been in active duty or his age. It's just, I know that was a decent amount referenced and mentioned in Conviction about his age. And honestly, it's just, we talked about it before. They could have done it. They could have gone in so many ways after that to have Michael Ironside still be a part of the series, just more of a mentor, like a Lambert type.
Yeah.
But just due to the popularity of Splinter Cell and them being not afraid to take a risk and wanting to still keep Sam because he's a notable character, I would say, and has been around for many years.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest problem, where he's the face of the franchise, and kind of like Snake in Metal Gear Solid, where there has to be at least some iteration of Snake, either Big Boss or Solid, in one of the games.
Yeah.
Or else people, the publishers are going to be afraid no one's going to buy it. And, I mean, that's also keeping them back. I understand Michael Ironside, he's done with it. He couldn't do regardless, I don't know if he wanted to do it or if it was no, he did say that he wanted to wrap up his tenure as Sam, but he also couldn't do the motion capture work. And I think that the motion capture was really well done in Blacklist. It's just that there's something about the way Sam looks in the game, where it's like if he was like maybe 8 to 10 years younger, he would actually fit that part with the voice as well as the physical performance. But with kind of the weird middle ground they went with, I mean, I still really like the character, and I like Eric Jacobson's. Eric Johnson's. I'm sorry, I'm getting his name mixed up.
Yeah.
His performance as Sam, I thought it was really good. It's just going back and playing it. I'm like, I really wish they would give this guy just like something to dye his hair a little bit darker. Just what is it, like the touch of men?
Touch of gray.
Just for men.
Just for men. Yeah.
Just to darken it a little bit, because it's that really weird like okay, so he's like kind of a middle-aged father, and he doesn't sound like it. He sounds like he's an adult, kind of on maybe kind of at the start of fatherhood, and it just felt like Michael Ironside. That voice, like he was old when he was young. Like if you go back and like watch um, Highlander 2, where he's in there, he's still sounding like very old. Like you go between that movie and then like Terminator Salvation. He's always been old.
Yeah.
But for younger Sam Fisher, I think it would have been better to either cut out the mentions, the calls to the daughter, as much as I like those,
Yeah.
and made him younger along with the rest of the cast, or do something else, or like keep him in the get him in the Lambert role.
Yeah, it's really that much in the middle ground, as we mentioned. It's a slight reboot and also a sequel to Conviction, but it seems like Ubisoft didn't know what they wanted to do with it. It's really nitpicky, but it's a thing that it is justifiable to critique.
Yeah,
but everything
it's
else
distracting as a fan.
It is, especially with us growing up playing these games and pretty much growing up with Sam too. It's very much it takes you out of it a little bit to see that his design has changed to be a little bit more younger.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've also had this discussion many years back too, when at the start of certain protagonists being a bit more older, much like Sam Fisher was in Conviction and Ezio was in Revelations as he was getting older too. There's a lot of games with protagonists that are a bit older than your typical main protagonist you see in some video games in some way, shape, or form. So it was like at the time where they're peaking at getting some like older protagonists to do a lot of crazy things that I don't think at their age they could do. But that was like breaking the illusion or ludonarrative dissonance in a way at the same time. But no, I mean that's just a small nitpick, anyways. But Ubisoft has been very consistent, gameplay-wise and everything else-wise with the Splinter Cell series. I would like to see them do another game again with that series in some way, shape, or form. We'll have to see what they'll do with terms of the story and things like that. That's always up for the debate. But yeah, Ubisoft has very much become. They're trying to be Call of Duty with it very much so, but they're not Call of Duty. They're very much trying to be, because we started off with the first Assassin's Creed game in the Crusades, and as the games proceeded, it started getting later and later into the timelines of history, and now there will be a point where they can't go back. Like, I'm sure they could, but they can't go back. They're going to be doing something modern, and I don't know if I'm too excited about really a modern day Assassin's Creed. I don't know if I want to see a game take place in the same time frame that Desmond was in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would like that. I really liked, that made the series stood out the most, is that it was taking place in these different timelines, in the Crusades, the Renaissance, all these other places. That's what made it stand out the most, and it's very much like how Call of Duty was when it started out in World War One. Now they're in the futuristic modern day military, even more modern. It's not even modern anymore. More advanced in the futuristic.
Yeah, they got jetpacks and Kevin Spacey.
They're gonna be doing that. I feel like Assassin's Creed is gonna turn into that. It's gonna turn to Deus Ex pretty soon. I feel like
I mean, with Call of Duty, the problem is that the type of gameplay they have is not very challenging. It's not like, I wouldn't even like something like even Wolfenstein: The New Order or a Halo game where you have to actually think about enemy weak points and shields. With Call of Duty, it's like, okay, you just see somebody, and they mostly go down like 2 or 3 shots, and that's it. And you get new weapons and you get new stuff, but it ultimately just feels kind of hollow because it's the same type of gameplay without any new iterations on the enemy side. And that's kind of the hardest thing to do about realistic modern shooters, because if you're doing that, it's like, listen, people who get shot by a gun once are usually going to go down. Whereas in like an exaggerated world like Wolfenstein: The New Order, it's like, okay, you can just shoot the Nazis got like electric backpacks to power their weaponry. You got to shoot it and it'll explode. There's like a giant mechanical dog, or the big Uber monsters that they have, and it's like, okay, you have variety there. And I kind of feel similarly about Assassin's Creed, where it's like they don't have too many ways to reiterate the same gameplay, and I feel like they really should maybe have I'm glad that they decided to not stay off it for a year and work on. It's like, listen, the people are getting pretty tired of the same old, so we're not going to release a main one this year. We'll just ride the success of the Assassin's Creed movie. Hopefully it's good, by the way. I hope it's good. And, just come back when we're stronger and we got a fully developed game.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly do too. I certainly wish nothing but the best for the movie. Honestly, it's not even because it's a video game movie itself. It's because the idea itself of where they started out with in Assassin's Creed has a lot of potential to be make a good movie.
Yeah.
Let's just cover that basis first. Not a franchise, not a series of movies, but let's start with at least one decent movie, and it's got a good cast so far.
Yeah, they hired a very handsome shark for the main role of.
Yeah.
Because have you ever seen like Michael Fassbender smile? He is just teeth. He is like he like even like the xenomorph alien would be like, damn, those are some teeth.
Yeah, he's got some choppers on. That's for sure. Yeah, we'll have to see. At this point, I really do hope that they make some adjustments or some tweaks, or hell, try something different.
Yeah,
I can only hope. But in a world like in the gaming industry, trying something different is not very much the common phrase.
No, but you know what gives me hope is that Deadpool started a trend of well, I don't know if it started a trend, but it certainly proved a lot of naysayers wrong about a not that well-known character getting his own film, an R-rated film, and do gangbusters because of just how smartly they made it, how smartly they marketed it, and also just the fact that it's a great movie.
Yeah, I did get to see Deadpool, by the way. It was very much enjoyed it.
Oh, great! Maybe we can talk. We can discuss. We can rap.
Yeah, we can get into some of that a little bit if we got the time.
Let's do it, party crew.
But yeah, it was certainly a very, very fun movie. Very even from the beginning, very well done on everything else. I know it was like sometimes I like how they twisted the origin story a bit, like just the tropes of a origin story in terms of telling it from flash forwards and flashbacks and things like that. Mm-hmm. I like that aspect. It certainly it keeps like a trope in comic book movies at least a little bit more diversified than your standard typical start from the beginning and now we're here.
It started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Pretty much. It was kind of that movie, but they did it in a way where it was very different, and then it had a different pace, going different many miles an hour in different many ways, and I was very much surprised for that. And Ryan Reynolds was a very good Deadpool. He proved me wrong. I had some doubts about him, but he certainly
was born to play that part.
He certainly immersed himself into that role.
He, starting back from X-Men Origins Wolverine, not a good film. I would not say that's at the top of the best superhero movies of all time. But I will say that the beginning scene where you have the Weapon X team and Ryan Reynolds is essentially Deadpool at that point, just without the costume. And he is great in that scene, and then of course he's gone from the rest of the movie. And when they bring him back, you're like, I just wish he was gone from the rest of the movie instead of doing this. And this time around, they have it's from the same screenwriters as Zombieland, and these guys have a very good knack of understanding comedic timing in terms of not only just like the scene-to-scene stuff, but also as a narratively, and especially when they jump back and forth between time segments of like, okay, we're in media res, here he is taking out all these guys looking for Francis, and then it goes back in time, then it goes forward, and then a lot of times it's used for like for punctuation for particular parts, and they understand. I mean, this is one of the best comedies I've seen in the last easily couple of years. This is just so funny that I constantly the audience was just constantly missing jokes because we were still laughing from the other one. Like when Deadpool tries to take on Colossus single-handedly, we were laughing so hard that the only thing we were laughing at is like the visuals of Deadpool still trying to like make himself look tough in like when Colossus is just standing there, and it's also a film it's very R-rated. And what I was worried about, one of the biggest concerns was that they were going to take the R rating and just swear, put nudity, put sex, put swearing, put violence, and then not really care about how it's used for a certain effect. And this time around, they use the vulgarity of it all and and they make it kind of a laugh to point out and just like enjoy. But they put a lot of heart when it turns serious, and it feels natural. And that vulgarity makes you kind of lighten up and put down your guard so you can actually get invested in the characters. And especially the romance story. This is a super, more than almost any other superhero movie, this is a superhero comedy romance. And this is Marina Baccarin, who plays Wade Wilson, who Ryan Reynolds plays, Wade Wilson's girlfriend. She is great in the scenes, and they have such great chemistry together. And there's the joke about the year-long sexcapades between them, which is just hilarious, and it's actually surprisingly tasteful. Like the jokes about Thanksgiving Day or Lent.
Yeah,
and it was just very well done. And I've been talking. There's so much good action. They don't forget that, like, okay, this is a character who thrives off of comedy and fourth wall breaking, but they space up so much that it doesn't get overbearing. Because, like, the end result Deadpool, the Deadpool that we all know from the comics and the one that everyone thinks about when they hear the word Deadpool, is a character who you can enjoy in small doses, and if it's going on for too long, you'll say, okay, why do I care? Because there's not a lot of emotional investment in the character. And so that's why they wisely spread it out between the romance angle. And I think, wow, these guys did a really good job.
Yeah, it's certainly a movie that could have been easily done very badly. And a lot of the things they did was, as you said, very well done. It's even adding that emotional, that emotional complex. Well, the scenes that were in there, and it has that effect in terms of the relationship. They added that in there that really made you give you more motivation to like the character and to root him on to the very end. The movie felt like it went by real quick. That's how enjoyable it was. That's the mark of a good movie, if that goes by real quick. And I gotta mention, man. You always gotta mention it in almost any Marvel movie you can. The great Stan Lee cameo. I think it's probably the best one he's done.
I will say that this is probably one of the best cameos he's ever. He's one of the best cameos he's ever done. I'm not sure if it's my favorite. I think the library scene from The Amazing Spider-Man is still probably my favorite one of his. But this was pretty damn good. And what I love is that this movie also understands the environment of not only superhero blockbusters, but blockbusters in general. Of like making fun of like the narrative conceits, making fun of like the Colossus, who that's the perfect character for this movie to be Deadpool's foil, because he is the cartoonishly good guy Russian who is he's like always giving speeches and always being moral, and Deadpool can't shut him up because he's made of steel, so he only just gets hurt trying to keep him quiet. So he's kind of like the Jiminy Cricket who could kick his ass. And it's such a great relationship there. as well as with Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who's the sullen, moody teenager who Deadpool has some really great repertoire with, even though she's just like tired of him already. Everyone hates him. He's basically just like, okay, we kind of begrudgingly want him in the X-Men because he's kind of just too dangerous to be kept loose. And they have they're really good segments with him. Everyone gets their chance to shine. Even the problem is that the big difficulty with the movie is the antagonists, and I don't know if it's supposed to be intentional that they're two-dimensional evil people who don't really have well-defined goals. Like, I'm not even sure what they were trying to accomplish at the end, where you're just like, okay, well, what's their game? And Ajax and Gina Carano's character, like, Angel, I think her name was, who is his enforcer, and
Yeah.
they're functional in the film. Like, you can understand why Deadpool hates them and what he wants to do in terms of he wants to turn himself back to normal after they turned him into this ugly looking guy, as T.J. Miller says in the movie. It looks like Freddy Krueger face-fucked a topographical map of Utah, and there's just like so many also smart lines like that where it's just like I was laughing like 2 minutes later just thinking about, like, oh man. And they use their budget incredibly well. This is not the they don't. I think there's like $50 or $60 million for the production, which is not small, but considering what they do with it, they use every cent, including the weird side plots with the taxi driver's name, like Mohinder.
I don't remember exactly, but those scenes were very, very, very funny, and they had their moments to shine in the movie too, and there was a lot of callbacks to that later on too. By the end of the movie, how that turned out with him. Yeah, it was very, very, very well done. Just like I feel you too on the villains as well. I feel like this is kind of an exception for them to be, and maybe intentional too, to be two-dimensional, because you can only do so much and write a really good villain against Deadpool that it may overshadow in some respects. I think that the purpose of them being two-dimensional works because the Deadpool itself is more the showcase than anything else. You don't want to take the attention off of Deadpool, which has kind of always been a little bit of the issues maybe with like the Batman movies. Just it's always usually the villain that usually gets more of the limelight compared to the Batman. Much Dark Knight, for example. I mean, as much as that was a great movie too, it was very much overshadowed by the villains, Heath Ledger's performance. But this one, I think it was intentional, and they needed to be two-dimensional because that's all they need. That's all they needed to be, and they have a purpose and a very simple goal and purpose to go against a character like Deadpool. That everything else he does will work. Yeah. It is surprising to say that having a two-dimensional, not so good villain works for this movie.
It does, well, especially since he's, his entire he was forced into mutation as well as Angel, and he says that like his power is that he can't feel pain, and that he can't feel anything, and so he everything. There's kind of the implication that everything he's doing is just like all the evil acts is maybe kind of his attempts to try to feel anything like joy or masochism or anything, including at the end of the "What's my name" line, just to irritate Deadpool and see if he gets pleasure from that. But ultimately, it's not, the writing is not entirely there for that character. And it is kind of a difficult task, because Deadpool is just such a huge, larger-than-life character that he breaks the artifice of the film by talking to the audience and jumping back and forth between the narrative. That maybe having a character just as equally zany in another way would be too much. So maybe I mean, also you got to deal with the origin story. It's also very heavy with the emotional stuff, and the emotional stuff really works. And it's certainly one of those. It's one of those trade-offs where it's like, listen, you gotta, for an origin story, it's much better to kind of focus on the protagonist than it is for the antagonist. And I think that's definitely the case here, where it's like the villain was he was just like a gun runner mutant, and so Deadpool getting revenge and getting him to change him back is the real crux of the story, especially with how that falls in the relationship with a love story. So yeah, I mean, for me though, it was just so executed so well. The writing is just like knee slapping hilarious, and it is very R-rated right off the bat, because they turn this one guy into just like hamburger paste, and
yeah.
Oh god, it just like that was just it looked more like an exploded plate of spaghetti than a human being. And they use the comedy very well. It's just, the word that comes to mind when I think about this is just easy. Everything looks so easy in how they execute it. They don't waste a single line of dialogue. They don't waste a single cut or a joke, or there was never a joke that fell flat to either establishing character or just like having a good laugh or anything. Whereas like every single thing that they have in here is well done and for a reason, but not obviously for a reason.
Yeah, we couldn't ask for more out of this movie. It was really executed well. It's fun to talk about it, but it's a lot more entertaining to watch. I really would like to see it again very soon.
The intro credits, how about that?
Yes.
Playing Angel of the Morning.
Very well from the beginning to end. It was a great experience for all, and an oddly a strange date movie too.
Yeah, it's if you got yourself a girlfriend and she don't mind the more R-rated side of things, this is a great date movie. Also surprisingly sweet too. I mean, I would kind of like to have seen a little bit more of T.J. Miller and his character, but that's fine. But how he was done, he was great comedic relief. But strangely, I didn't think this movie would need more comedic relief, but he was very good as Deadpool's best friend Weasel, who ran a bar, and what was her name? Blind Al.
Yeah, Blind Al. I wish she was in it more too. She was really good.
Oh my god, they that was just great, because like Deadpool, like this is an old blind woman who is who is Wade's roommate, and he just absolutely is the cruelest son of a bitch to her. Because there are moments where you're just like, oh come on, man, you didn't need to say that. They really make Blind Al's not in the movie that long, but her presence is definitely so strong in those parts, because they don't waste her scenes.
Yeah, every scene was done very well, and I felt like nothing was wasted, and I couldn't really think about anything that could have been cut. Everything was every minute, every second was properly executed and there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and T.J. Miller was very good too. I wish we could have seen more of him, and a lot of the things he said were really funny. It's especially the joke they made about the villains' outfits when they showed up at the nightclub or something.
It's like, yeah, like fun watching Blade 2.
Yeah, that was really good, and yeah, I cannot wait till.
I mean, it's hard for
another
me to
one
talk
comes
about
out.
this. I think it's hard for us to talk about this film, because it's just so good that I don't want to ruin anything for people, because it's just like it's a great film, superbly made. With the production that they had a huge opportunity to make it terrible, They could have just said like, okay, we'll just rest on the fact that it's an R-rated superhero, not really work on it. But they made it smart. They made it funny. They made it action-packed. They made it emotionally impactful. And it's just like, wow, Ryan Reynolds, this is no joke, one of the best roles you've ever done. Well done.
I'm sure you would say that too.
Probably Deadpool to himself in the mirror.
Yeah, it was very good. We can't really praise it enough. Without really saying too much already, because there's so much to talk about a lot of the awesome moments about it. It's better off that you guys go see it if you haven't already. So watch it again to remember those memories you had about the funny moments in the movie. I'm very excited about the sequel they're already working on. So it's very cool to see. It's already greenlit. I know
Gonna bring Cable,
and Cable's going to be very, very interesting too, because he's much similar in the way of Colossus too. Very much going to be like the straight man.
Mm-hmm. That's the hardest role to write for, I think, because you need to have a straight man who just doesn't react. Not only reacts to the insanity of the crazy man, or the loose cannon, but he needs to have his own personality and be just as noteworthy as a straight man, and that's very hard to write for. Because like with the loose cannon, like Jack Sparrow, you can make him just do what and say whatever. It's hard for people to just meet him on that level of like curbing the insanity down, like Orlando Bloom's. See, I can't even remember his character's name, but his character in the second and third Pirates of the Caribbean movie, where it's like, okay, no one can really compete with Jack Sparrow, so they stay out of the way, and no straight-laced character who's like the serious one can really work well off of him, and I thought that was a problem. So I thought they did a really good job with Colossus in this one as being the straight man who Deadpool just really hates, and so I would love to just seeing that Cable's kind of the famous one of the kind of team ups. I would love to see it. And did you, by the way, Stephen Lang was saying like, hey, I'd love to be Cable, and damn, he looks exactly like Cable, and he's got a good acting talent behind him. But someone also drew a concept art of Keira Knightley as Cable.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's good because I won't say anything, but Deadpool's a bit of a Keira Knightley fan, so if you watch the film, you'll understand why. And then someone just drew up like, hey, what would be Keira Knightley as Cable look like? So this is a great film from start to finish. It's inventive, it's creative, it's imaginative, it's funny, it's tense, it's emotionally rewarding, and honestly, there's not a whole lot I can detract from it.
I feel the same way. There's not much else I can really say, because it's very much about to get the most out of it is to really watch it at first with a fresh mind, or watch it again. It's a great movie. If anyone's already seen it, I'm sure you've already heard about it. It's a very good movie. Cannot recommend it enough. I cannot wait for the sequel. And
hey, it made an R-rated Wolverine possible.
Yeah, that's true. We wouldn't have had that. It's been waiting for that for a long ass time. Mm-hmm. And it's cool to see that it's in the same universe as the X-Men. Well, because Fox owns the rights, but it's cool to see that it's possible, and the jokes they made about the budget not having the rest of the cast there, because they go to the house and it's just him, it's just Colossus and and the other girl.
They don't even they could have easily have put in a bunch of students just running around in the background, going to class or something, but they don't even do that. They just want you to know okay, these are the only guys that we're putting in the movie. And the jokes that Deadpool constantly makes about Hugh Jackman, James McAvoy, Patrick Stewart, just, oh my god, I just love the fact that they're not afraid to poke fun at themselves. Not afraid of, at least this production, this director is not afraid to poke fun at the universe they're kind of inhabiting. And strangely enough, they also reference the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Marvel Studios and Disney, because at the end they have that kind of big cameo. I don't want to say what it is, but it was like, wait a minute, is that a helicarrier? And you know, they might not have been. And also, the one of the characters that Deadpool meets later is Bob. And and I don't know too much about Deadpool, but he does have a sidekick named Hydra Bob.
Right,
who is
that's true.
just like this low-level grunt working for Hydra that goes on adventures with him. And so they were able to get that past the Marvel, the lawsuits anyway, the legal stuff. So I like the fact that they want to connect to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're trying to make a bit more of a stretch to trying to get there without really having to say it. But yeah, maybe that's the beginning of really better relationships between Fox and Disney.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm just very excited to have seen it, and it's certainly one of the best many things. It's comedy, romance, and action movie. I honestly cannot tell you what the last good comedy was, and this is probably like it's up there right now. It's certainly the last good one I've seen.
In terms of movies,
comedy movie.
No, there's well, as you all know, I hate Judd Apatow. And I think that kind of Judd Apatow filmmaking of kind of half recording ad-lib scenes and like kind of very vague looking moments of like characters just thinking of things off the cuff or whatever, and not really doing what Edgar Wright does, which is write a script and have visual jokes, having jokes about cinematography, having editing be a part of the joke. And Deadpool does that, and the director came from a background in animation, and very much like Brad Bird in Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. I think that was a very big benefit because you have to visualize the story, and visualizing means kind of understanding the mechanics of how the scene works and what's the best shot for this, and how do I make this funny? What if this was like just off frame so people couldn't see it? And Deadpool does that. Deadpool, does that frequently, and the fact that they're not just relying on a really good script, but they're actually making great jokes within the actual filmmaking, and that's something I thought was pretty darn brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thumbs up from the both of us on Deadpool.
I thought it was all right.
couldn't say much more on that.
No, it's really damn good, and unless you're absolutely averse to violence and swearing and sex, and there's also a lot of eye candy for the ladies and gentlemen out there in the movie. But if you're don't have a big problem with dealing with that, then this is a great movie. I am very hopeful that this will mean more experimentation with the formula of superhero movies. But, not just R-rated superhero movies, but I mean like a character who breaks the fourth wall with this one. Maybe we'll get smaller, more intimate superhero movies. Like I secretly hope that they'll one day make a Superior Foes of Spider-Man movie, because that one would just be a straight-up comedy, and I would love to see that.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of something for everyone in that movie. Whether you're not a huge fan of all a nonsensical violence. Well, I was trying to remember what the actual word was. There was a word. Arguish? No. I forgot. There was a word. I don't know why I'm thinking about a Boondock Saints 2, but there's like the line that Norman Reedus said they're going to have some gratuitous violence or something like that.
Yes. That was definitely the case for this one, because there's like scenes of kind of there are moments where it just turns into like an R-rated Bugs Bunny cartoon of just like how badly these guys get sliced up and squished, and just like realize that it's going to be a bit ridiculous because given the nature of it. And what's interesting is because of kind of the not half-hearted, but not as serious sort of tone that they're setting. It feels like they can get away with more, like with Colossus and being so overtly Russian in his accent. It would be comedic in the wrong sense for like a serious X-Men movie, but it works here. Like I have a feeling if they want to have another Colossus, they'll either get the actor to tone down the accent or hire someone else to convey it. But here it works because the accent is just as ridiculous as Deadpool's actions.
Yeah, and the marketing is probably one of the best you'll see for a movie in a while, for sure. Mm-hmm. A lot of good things going on there with that, and people so into it. Petitioning to get him on SNL would be pretty cool. They'll probably get big ratings for that one. I don't see why they can't do that.
Hey, if Ving Rhames shows up in Deadpool 2, I'll be a happy camper.
That'd be really cool. Well, I guess just on a side note before we move on to our creme de la creme discussion, because I know we've been meaning to get this discussed. What's that? Uh-oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
You cut out on me a little quick.
Damn it.
But you're good. I thought that was going to hang up on us again, but it's all good. No, our creme de la creme discussion of Blue Mountain State, the rise of Thad Land.
Rise of Thad Land. Oh, I got to tell you, I was not a big... I didn't know much about this. I thought it was a show like Friday Night Lights, and when I watched the movie, I'm like, oh, if this is what the TV show is like, then this is not like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, I really didn't give you a whole lot to go off of, especially with just giving you the link and I think you may have seen like the thumbnail or the artwork of the poster of the movie, and that's really all about it. But
yeah,
like I mentioned, it was a show on Spike TV that it ended up getting canceled out there. I think after a couple of seasons. I'm surprised itself that it lasted a season. But it got canceled, and then it had a cult following. It really did. And then they ended up getting a Kickstarter to make a movie of this as we got right here that we're going to talk about. And it got enough to. I don't remember what the budget was at the amount they got, but I think
it was $5 million,
something like that. It doesn't look like a. It doesn't look like a really cheap movie either. It looks pretty. No. It looks pretty well shot in some scenes. And
the ending shot that was like, wow, how'd you afford that? I assume it was on a drone, not an actual crane. Because nowadays drones are cheap and they can make it very, very easy to look like a crane shot.
That's true. That's very true. And yeah, just through the culmination of that and a lot of the cult following it had, I was able to make the Kickstarter and have the movie that we have today. We're gonna talk about real quick though. What are your feelings on? I know there was discussions, just a little side bit for this with Deadpool. We're talking about with James Gunn going on the rant about the success of Deadpool and how saying the industry will tend to go towards raunchy superhero films instead of good and original films. I
like James Gunn. I think he's obviously very passionate about his work, and he one of the things I will always respect him for is the fact that he came out and said, like, listen, you think that these low budget indie comedies are you think we don't care as much about our characters who are just like a talking raccoon and a giant tree. You don't think we care about those characters as much as other filmmakers care about theirs? Well, you're wrong. These are characters we love, and these are characters that we want to do right. And this is just another type of filmmaking. And I think the stigma against it of like, oh, it's a superhero film, nobody cares, is outdated and stupid. I respect him for that. For this one, for this stance, I don't think, just because there's been so many articles about like, okay, Deadpool's successful, but will Hollywood understand why it's successful? And a lot of worry is that like, okay, they're going to think it's because it's R-rated, because it's raunchy, because the character breaks the fourth wall or is disrespectful or any of this list of stuff. It's like, okay, that's kind of ancillary to really why it was successful. And his worry is something that I share, which is their success is going to be misinterpreted, because that has been the case for some films. Like, for instance, the big one is The Dark Knight, where even by the same studio, where WB said like, oh, okay, this is successful, so when we make Man of Steel, we need to make it very depressing, very dark, desaturated. We're going to have a lot of plot going on, not a lot of story, and we're going to not make sure that that we try to figure out really why Dark Knight was successful. And Dark Knight was successful because it was good. It was storytelling. It was actually focused on characters, and it was focused on getting invested in the story, and not just like things happening, just assuming that the audience will care.
Right.
And with Deadpool, it's that it was a smart script. It was a hilarious script as well. It was done well. It was done with respect to the character. The type of movie that Deadpool the movie is very close to the spirit of what the Deadpool comic is. It's been changed around to incorporate a better romance angle, kind of more references to the fact that the movie of the kind of history of Ryan Reynolds is in both X-Men Origins Wolverine and Green Lantern, which are like two of the worst superhero films in the last 10 years. That's a huge part of the identity of his as well. And when it just comes down to it, they're not going to understand it's because I feel like a lot of studios are not going to understand it's because they took a risk on it. They were smart about it. They made it a great production. They made the audience care for the characters before doing anything with them, and just really understood that when it comes to a story, you don't like the vulgarity of it is part of the character. It is not a part of like a set list of things to cross off.
That's true. I mean, and I hope that level-headed studios will understand that the success of the movie was because of the writing and also the loyalty and dedication and the faithful adaptation of that character, and not have it changed to appeal to a certain demographic. It's the main reason why it was successful, and I hope enough of them understand that and take more of a risk on trying something, not necessarily. You can say this, necessarily different. You can say that, and also just pretty much being true to the character that you're adapting. If it's a popular enough character, people will go see it, and if it's a good script, people are going to see it. And this has been the perfect example. Not necessarily it doesn't have to be R-rated, but just depends on the actual character you're working on, or just the source material. It can go many different faceted ways. So I like that they took the risk. Fox has been doing pretty good these last 3 years in terms of
not Fantastic Four,
but
they needed some help after that.
I think they put blindfolds and earmuffs on and took a risk, but didn't. I think that was one of the things. But they've been better than how they were during the years of like X-Men 3 and then X-Men Wolverine. They've been a lot bad before, but now they're doing a little bit better, taking some risk, and you don't cringe as much or worry too much when you actually see in trailers or when the movie starts the 20th Century Fox intro or logo. You used to feel that way a little bit when some of these when they first started doing these superhero movies and the X-Men movies, that the ones that they were bad, X-Men 3 and Last Stand and X-Men Origins, Wolverine, things like that. Those were like the kind of the dark years for them, and then I think they're starting to get it. They're starting to get it now. Yeah, they're getting it a little bit now.
It also didn't really help that the producers for X-Men 3 were at the time they didn't understand what Bryan Singer did in adapting these characters, because one of the big things that people loved about Days of Future Past was how freaking frightening the Sentinels are, and they're a huge part of the X-Men mythos. And in X-Men 3, they were going to be a part of the Danger Room setting, but one of the producers said, "Yeah, I don't really like robots, so keep them out." Like that's like the only reason why they just had like the head of a Sentinel fly down, because the guy doesn't want us to do it. And they've proven over the years that they can take risks and do things that are odd. Not odd as so much as like, wow, that's pretty brazen. Like First Class was a period piece. Days of Future Past was a time traveling movie. The Wolverine was a very somber, set in Japan with like a mostly Japanese cast that were unknown to Americans. Like the only actor people, or two actors that people remember are Hugh Jackman and Famke Jensen in the Wolverine, and everyone else was kind of an unknown actor. And it's like half in Japanese. And it's that was pretty brazen. And, by the way, as you could tell, that's probably one of my favorite superhero movies is the unrated cut of the Wolverine, because that one is definitely R-rated. So if you're hankering for some Wolverine R-ratedness now, go check that one out. But also with Deadpool, just showing that they are really not worried about experimenting. Like everyone is, I think. The Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Fox X-Men movies are starting to really experiment and really start to get out there. Still not like insane. Like it's not an experimental film, but they're doing a lot more things which are pretty brazen. And I certainly hope that DC with Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman does something equally as interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm very much eager, CH.
Mm-hmm.
To see this movie, as you can tell. I check every day at my local movie theater's website to see if they got the tickets on pre-order. Get my tickets ready. Buy out the whole theater just for myself and Kat.
Like Kanye West at Madison Square Gardens. I like to buy this entire arena for a day just so I can charge my computer.
Exactly. That's what I'm gonna do.
Kanye West would make a great Deadpool 2 villain.
That'd be funny. I cannot wait. I'm very excited for both films, Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. It's all coming down to this. Just almost a month away, and I'm starting to collect Dr. Pepper cans in the cereal.
Oh man,
I'm that into it.
I'm trying to stay away from soda, but I'm tempted just because like the inner geek in me is like, I need to buy the Ant-Man, like Dr. Pepper soda.
I like Dr. Pepper. I did not realize till I bought the packs of Dr. Pepper with the Batman on it. They're collectible, so like, I mean, it's easy to tell nowadays, especially when you go to the supermarket. You can just, you puncture a hole in the box, where you puncture the hole, where it's like a handle. Mm-hmm. You can make a handle out of it, and you can see what you're gonna get because each one of these cartons that they have of this Batman v Superman Dr. Peppers, they all come with just one. It's like if you see Batman in there, you're gonna get like 12 cans of Batman. So they don't all come mixed in together. They're all separate, which kind of sucks. That makes me want to buy more sodas. and I realized how incredibly how amount of sugar is in that Dr. Pepper. I was like, God damn, this is more sugar than Coke.
Dude, that is why it is so delicious and so interior intestinal distressing of how much sugar is in there.
I gotta like have one a month.
Oh, yeah. Like I would be surprised if like Red Bull had less sugar.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's not as much. But it's also because it's a smaller, thinner can too, which also makes a big deal about it too. But yeah, I'm very much excited for Batman v Superman. I cannot wait. I hope it's everything I've been kind of hoping it to be. I'm not really having my expectations set too high. I don't want to set them too high to be disappointed. I'm just excited to see a live action Frank Miller Batman on screen, and Ben Affleck is looking to be very much in line for being a very good Batman. And a very good Bruce Wayne, and also it got me hyped. We didn't talk about this either. We saw the last trailer that came out for it. It was so good. That was like the second to best trailer. Like the first trailer, the longer one that was at Comic-Con was really good, and this one was really good too. And the fighting in that Batman fight in the trailer was probably the best Batman fight scene in any movie.
Someone was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like somebody who was playing Arkham Knight and was just like recording it, and then they accidentally mixed it in with the editor's stuff. Like, oh, here's the fight scene. Wow, this is really, really good. Yeah, I shot this. Let's CG in some of our own stunt guys in the background just to make sure everybody knows it's us.
Yeah, it was very much Arkham Knight, Batman, Arkham games esque in terms of the fighting. Which is really cool. We haven't really seen any of that before because a lot of the way that the fight scenes were shot in like Christopher Nolan movies, they're more shot like very. They were. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, dude, I hate those.
They weren't the best, but they were shot real in more like a quick shaky cam kind of way, and also it was. I guess it was his reason was to create more of a mystique that Batman's so fast that you can't even keep up with, his fighting and where his fighting skills are at that point.
Yeah, that was the case for Batman Begins. For Batman Begins, I can understand that. It's like, okay, I'm not really digging the fact that like you can't see anything, and it's just like, well, it's just as meaningful or meaningless as any other battle because like you can't see what's going on. There's no rhythm of combat. There's no, it's like, okay, I get it because he's just so good that it's hard to see. And with the Dark Knight, they came out with the fight scenes, and they were clear. They were able to be clearly seen, and they were good. But I wouldn't say like, wow, the choreography was so great. But it's like, okay, good, acceptable, good in the film. And then The Dark Knight Rises comes out, and I am angry because Wally Pfister, who was the cinematographer for The Dark Knight Rises, came out and was talking shit about the Avengers. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, the camera work, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't convey any storytelling. It's like, you son of a bitch, you have the balls to say that, and then you have like the Bane Batman fight scene where it's establishing shot, reaction shot, where it's a two shot, like a shot reverse shot, establishing shot, reaction shot, shot reverse shot, and the choreography and the cinematography are terrible. I mean, no joke. There are there are fan videos on YouTube with better cinematography and choreography than what Wally Pfister, Christopher Nolan, and whoever the fight choreographer was in the films. I'm sorry, for me, those were terrible fight scenes. I'm like, wow, Batman says in the movie, it's like I'm no ordinary fighter, and then like when he gets into the brawl with Bane, he's like swinging madly like a drunken sailor in a bar. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And this time around, I gotta say, the Batman vs Superman trailer, where he's beating the crap out of the thugs, that was such a brutal beatdown. Like the one guy, a guy was like standing up and he punched the side of his cheek so hard that he went like a full 180 degrees.
Yeah.
And he was like, he punched him so hard he broke into breakdancing. And just like, and in my mind, it's like, okay, that guy would have been dead. I'm pretty sure that guy's dead.
He served himself with that.
You got served.
No, you're right. I mean, as much as I like the Nolan films, like it certainly wasn't the highlights of the films. As much as I wanted it to be, the highlights of the films was more about the storytelling and the characters, but not necessarily the fight scenes. They could have been done a lot better.
As it almost should always be.
Yeah, it should always be, but I don't even mean to make excuses, but it's a different Batman that he was establishing, and like you said, I never got the sense that he was this amazing fighter. He was competent, but not to the point of the comic books where he's almost like
he's almost like Steve
like
Rogers,
like Grant Morrison's Batman is almost like an invincible kind of god, almost like a man at his most physical peak that cannot be touched. It's trained by, well, in the Dark Knight, it's kind of like that, but trained by the League of Shadows. I did not really get the sense that Christian Bale's Batman was trained by the League of Shadows, but maybe like Matt Damon, maybe he's trained like Jason Bourne, but not like the League of Shadows.
Yeah, they training as like ninjas to strike from the shadows. Like maybe not like hand-to-hand fighting, and they could have done a little bit more with that, but yeah, I could understand that. But this one, there is no question that this is like, in terms of live action stuff, already hands down this is the best live action Batman fighting I've ever seen. And
very faithful to the comics. It's just kind of always something everybody that's a fan of Batman always wanted to see. It's just, I guess, it just never came to that point where the film itself sustained that kind of degree of fighting. Because I don't know how well it would have been cool to see. I don't know how well it would have worked. It may have stood out a bit too much. It may have been like a sore thumb. If that kind of fight scene was in the Nolan movies, it would be cool, but it wouldn't. It just kind of would make it kind of stand out because it's just not the kind of movie or world that Nolan was establishing for Batman.
No,
more of a realistic take on the character, which is cool. I mean, I like seeing that. It's very much like what Jeff Johns was doing with Batman, Earth One.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 volumes that he did was more of a realistic take on Batman and how. He's not like this know everything, always be 1,000% prepared for any kind of thing that may go down. And things like that. Not like Grant Morrison's Batman, which is cool. I mean, Grant Morrison's Batman is very cool, and it's very much. It has a plan for everything. It's very, very much
drops a lot of LSD.
A lot of LSD, and is at the physical peak that any man can be, even beyond at some point. And this is. From the footage we saw from the last trailer, it's just like this is like always something I always wanted. I'm probably gonna shed a tear when I see this movie. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna be like the closest thing to the comic books on the live action screen that we can get. Hopefully, the story is able to substantiate itself as well with the footage we've seen and the way that it's shot and the action. So hopefully, it sustains that as well. It's on equal level. But that fight scene was very cool, very much like the Arkham games. It's not necessarily to say it's a bad thing, but it was very faithful to the character of the comics.
I ain't complaining.
I know.
It's like if you want to get some nice brutality, you go with some of the Arkham combat finishers that they have there. And I guess Jeremy Irons in the trailer is looking great. I love the fact that he's the other Alfreds are just like, okay, he's he's a butler this time around. Apparently he's the head of security, which I like as an update. I like the fact that Jeremy Irons, I don't know how, but he now looks like a really older version of Robert Downey Jr.
He does.
So the sarcasm and like the biting wit, really does suit that kind of looking character now, and I. Do like the fact that he seems more like, as well as kind of a father figure, but also a peer, because like he's also helping Batman when he's attacking that small group of thugs. Like there's a lot of them on the 3rd level, so why don't I let you off in the 2nd one, and then Batman just like immediately goes on the 3rd level. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I really like so far with the interpretation of Alfred, and Alfred's for better in some aspects, just to kind of mix it up a bit, not to have him be more of like a character that can always easily be used against Batman as a MacGuffin to kind of surrender himself to some thugs in some shape or form. As much as I love the animated series Alfred, I will always. It's a very classic Alfred, and as Batman has evolved too from the '60s until now, Alfred himself has evolved too. Especially they're taking much of the inspiration from Jeff Johns' Batman Earth One storyline, where Alfred's more of like he's seen some shit. He's a military man that's been, I guess, part of the special ops as well from like the Britain. I think he was part.
SAS.
Yeah, he was a part of that, and he has some ideals as well that may be a little bit different. I don't know if they're going to do that story arc where he's more of like a trigger happy than anything else. Is because I know Earth One, he was more like, if you're gonna go out and fight crime, you better carry a gun. You're gonna get yourself killed.
Yeah, that would make an interesting dynamic change up, especially since this time around I like the fact that they hinted at maybe some military background with Alfred in The Dark Knight when he's talking about like, we were hired by I think he was he a part of a mercenary group, or was he
something like that,
and just like there's like a little bit of that, but I like the fact that it's a little bit more overt in this trailer, where it's like he's he's actually, and I would actually really like to see that, where he and Batman are maybe at odds of like, no, you need a little bit of violence to save yourself and others, and Batman's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And if that's the case, then I hope it's in there well, especially since he seems to be the common sense guy this time around, where he's like, listen, he's not our enemy. Superman is not our problem, and Batman's like, listen, this son of a bitch destroyed my building with all the people in it. If there's even the slightest chance that he could turn on us, I'm going to kill him. Well, that at least is what it seems to be, anyway.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know how far they want to go with that in terms of Batman's motivations, to how far he will go to stop Superman. That we're not too sure of, but it's very much of it. It's a very interesting dilemma, and ideas he has about that. And I like so far what I've seen from Jeremy Irons. He's always great in everything he's in, and it's I like different approach to Alfred, much more of a military background, and much more of a
less dry wit, more like, you son of a bitch, listen, stop.
Yeah, he's more gritty. He's more of a grittier,
direct,
very direct, and he's also more involved a little bit more. He was involved. He was involved in the anime series too, but not to the extent where he's providing, I guess, a bit more intel, more like an Oracle type to Batman at the point. We don't know if Oracle or any other the Bat family was still very much.
They hinted at Robin.
Yeah, they hinted at that, but I don't know how far they go with it. There's so much to the film that I have no idea what they're gonna address and mention and reference, because there's so much to that universe, and so much that I don't know how that they can afford to even squeeze any reference or mentions into it. The Bat family, everything else regarding that. So we'll have to see, but everything's looking good for me. I love that last trailer. The fight scenes are great, and just there. I'm just very much excited to see the movie. They should have shown this trailer off first before that other one we saw that premiered, and then we saw the fan edit, and then I was okay with it too.
That was better. I do like this trailer. I like the action elements in there. I thought the second half of the previous trailer, kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, but I'm still very much excited for this. I hated Man of Steel, but I'm willing to give anything a shot. If this is good, then I'll be very happy man. And this is also, and in DC, and for WB and DC, this is their own experimentation, even, because instead of having an origin story team-up film, this is a team-up film with no origin stories for Batman. Well, hopefully not too long for Batman, because I've seen it so many damn times. But
I have a little montage in it for sure with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and
Lauren Holden.
Yeah, from Walking Dead too, is Martha and Martha Wayne and Thomas Wayne. So there's going to be that for sure. I mean, just to kind of get that out there. Even though a lot of people know the origin already, but it'll probably just be maybe a little montage, little dream or a flashback or something.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to spend too much time on it, because
they don't need to spend an hour of him training or something. Maybe him how he trained and everything like that. There's no need for that.
Yeah, do the Incredible Hulk thing, where it's just like, okay, here's a montage, dun dun dun. Okay, now we're here. Let's go.
Yeah, I feel we'll get a hint of a little bit of the backstory of Wonder Woman, but primarily it's gonna get fleshed out in the movie, in her own movie when it comes out. Don't know how they'll introduce Jason Momoa. I know even Cyborg too. I know the Cyborg is also going to be in the Justice League too, so I don't know how they'll handle that.
Yeah, I hope it's good. That's all I can say. I hope it's really good. I like what I'm seeing so far from the trailers. I love the look of it, but Zack Snyder has always been a great visual director, and I hope Chris Terrio's script is great. I'm glad that they're not relying on David Goyer anymore, because he was absolutely terrible in the last movie. And in any case, I really hope it looks good. I love the fight scenes so far, and I gotta say, just this last thing, I love the look Superman gives Batman when he Superman tries to punch him, and then Batman just stops his punch like mid punch, and he just looks at he doesn't even like do anything. He just like looks at his hand like, oh crap, and then like that's just a great moment.
Yeah, that was a good part of the trailer. Yeah, I cannot wait. I cannot express how excited I am for it. It's just it cannot come sooner. We're almost at the halfway point of the release. So just wanted to bring that up real quick. But let's move on.
Yeah.
To the Blue Mountain State.
Blue Mountain State.
The Rise of Thad Land.
We have our cinematic masterpieces. Hopefully, Batman vs Superman is that one, and it'll have a lot to live up to in terms of this film as well, regardless of the genre. So I was not a big fan of. I was not a fan of Blue Mountain State, as in I didn't know it existed. I didn't know what it was about.
Right. I have a little bit more. I have a little bit more knowledge of it because I did see the show on Spike. That was like one of the one or two shows I watched on Spike. That with like 1,000 Ways to Die. But that was just a guilty pleasure one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit more familiar with the show. It doesn't necessarily. The movie doesn't necessarily harken too much on the show, but it does add a little bit more if you've seen the show. It pretty much is like we discussed previously. It's much to the effect of Friday Night Lights and like American Pie, or also
I would say Community.
Community. It's like it's a Friday Night Lights on drugs in some way, shape, or form.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. So pretty much the plot of the movie is Thad is like in the process of being. Well, I think he was already picked number one pick for the draft to be like the very established, very promising young player in the NFL after graduating college, and it's just him on his adventures on spending money at a tremendous rate, and
he hasn't technically earned.
There's a lot of stupid stuff. Well, that we'll get into a little later because that was a little bit of a cliffhanger. That was a little bit of a twist. I mean,
well, they do say at the beginning of just like they say, he's being interviewed by I think ESPN. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, so you spend all this money, but you haven't actually been technically drafted yet. It's like, well, I feel like there's no use in waiting. I'm already gonna get picked. Yeah,
and seeing this movie too, I'm just saying this because it's a little bit of a stretch, but in some ways it's a lot. The movie also is like very much of the sense like it's also kind of it kind of harkens on like what actually goes on too in real life with a lot of the NFL players and any kind of sports figures that have this tremendous amount of money, and then the stupid things they spend on. It feels a little bit more like it's riffing on that, a little bit of a parody too, especially with the character of Thad. He's a complete archetype of a typical very pompous, very privileged athlete.
Yeah,
you see in a lot of the movies, like any kind of college or high school movie.
He's one of the jocks in Revenge of the Nerds, but with just like a smidgen more sympathy.
That's true, and it, there'll be moments in there that happen too. But it pretty much
he buys a rhino and he thinks it's a dinosaur.
Yeah, as he was being interviewed, and that's a good portion of the movie, and also with the other character of. The quarterback, I forget his name, but it was Alex Moran. It was also in the process because he was in the show. He's kind of in the shadow of Thad too because he was playing and he already graduated and Alex is gonna be a senior and kind of be the head honcho of the Goat House.
Yeah,
they're kind of beta or college dorm where they have a crazy amount of crazy drinking and drugs and women at these parties.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, and then there's this guy that wanted to shut this down, wanted to regulate the filth that was going on here, that was distracting the players, and
the dean,
pretty much, and it ended up going for auction, and Alex thought the only way to stop this is to get Dad to convince him to buy the Goat House because he's got a $50 million contract, which may or may not be legit, as we'll see in the movie. There's a lot of those moments, and then there's also a subplot with him and his romantic love interest, who's at the phase she can't decide if she's a lesbian, where she's going through the phase of college where she's experimenting, and she's saying that she's a lesbian, and then that kind of goes on the wayside later on. They end up hooking up, and and the punter, who's got experimental drugs. I always that guy I always liked on the show too. He's had his funny moments too. He's experimenting on drugs.
It's it's definitely kind of the classic college tropes of college life, except this time it's through the lens of, in a comedic sense, through the lens of a football team,
right?
And rather than like a band or sci-fi nerds or anything like that, or even like regular students, it's through kind of this college football team trying to save their house from being purchased and taken down, and they're trying to raise money, and Thad in before actually getting his money, they have to throw the greatest party that he had since he tells them that this is the party that I've had since I wanted to do since when I was 10 years old.
Yeah,
and
he's got quite an imagination at that age.
Yeah, quite the imagination, and and given the character of this guy who just they meet him at a restaurant where he demands to have just an all meat plate where it's just ham with crab legs sticking out of it, and he's not exact. That's kind of the kind of person I would expect to always have had this dream. Because he's just this huge hulking meathead, and his kind of just as stupid cousin, I think, who gives us not Sam, who was I can't remember the main. He's the lead protagonist, but
it gives Alex, right?
Yeah, Alex. They give Alex the instructions. Okay, so you got to throw us the best party of all time. Got to get lots of women, lots of drugs, a mojito jacuzzi. Just everything that I want and more. And then I'll give you the money.
A unicorn. Yeah, a unicorn with dildo on his head and shit and rainbows.
Yeah. It's it's one of those classic. We got to save the college campus, but through the lens of these characters. And speaking as somebody who didn't watch the TV series, you get a good feeling of who the characters are for the most part, and you don't require a whole lot of backstory to kind of get what their archetypes are all about.
No, not necessarily. Yeah, it's pretty much have their own archetypes or a certain two-dimensional in a sense. So you don't necessarily have to have seen the show to kind of get where they're coming from, and that was a good part of it too. There was a lot that went down in that movie, and also the subplot is another subplot as well with the coach that was on the fence of I don't know if he was on the fence of retiring or people wanted him to retire from coaching the college team, the college football team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, beyond that, what was your overall consensus? I mean, we're not gonna get too in depth in it because it's a lot of there's a lot of nonsense that occurred. But anything that maybe stood out to you, feel free to bring up. What are your initial thoughts from beginning to end? How did you feel about it? I know it wasn't. I wasn't expecting anything out of it. It's just for the sake of because I saw it was available. I saw it was available, and I figured we'd watch it.
I thought that there are certain things that I'm glad are funded by Kickstarter, by these crowdfunding productions, to give audiences a second chance. And even going as far back as Joss Whedon getting another chance with Firefly, with the Serenity movie, going back as far as Fresh Prince of Bel-Air getting a second chance, or Family Guy coming back after cancellation, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air getting renewed when being switched over to a new station. There are a lot of good properties that deserve continuation. This isn't one of them. I am absolutely. This movie. It starts out with giving you a bad impression, and just continues to like beat that bad impression into you, even though you know they can make a case for themselves. There's like hints of of brilliant humor, and then they just never go anywhere with it. Like one of the things I absolutely fucking hate are jokes about somebody's accent because they say something funny, and then that's what they do with the Dean. Like, they don't do it once, they don't do it twice, they do it every single time this guy is on, and he's on at least, 25 times in every different scene. And it's like, oh, let's make fun of the fact that he can't say this word. It just feels mean-spirited and kind of disgusting. And it's weird, because this film is kind of progressive, because, one of the characters comes out as gay, and instead of being like, oh, you're gay, don't try to sleep with me, Thad just goes hey, that's great, I'm going to tell everybody. And he's just like, no, please don't tell everybody, because this is kind of a personal thing. And it's like, okay, that one, the problem is it's not well enough to leave it alone. They need to take the joke and just beat it with a baseball bat, then with a dead horse, and then with anything else that they can find. And I just, oh god, I could not stand this movie. And one of the most disgusting thing was that I was thinking about was shit, I can't remember his name. I want to say Kevin McAllister, but it's not Kevin McAllister. Who's the protagonist of this film? James Warren.
Well, is Alex the quarterback,
Alex.
Right?
Yeah, yes. And his maybe lesbian girlfriend, who there's just some terrible dialogue going on between them. Where he's trying to get this one girl, and he's they're trying to give you exposition dialogue as well. Just okay, they also hooked up at the house, and it's just disgusting, because she it first goes off hey, I can sleep with any girl I want. I just need to do the right things. Hey, worked on you, I can get any girl. It's okay, you're not winning me over. I'm kind of going with this girl's kind of disgust with you. And she's like, well, maybe I can finger bang her on the lawn. It's what the fuck? You have... where the hell did this come from? And it just gets progressively just stupider. And it's not stupid enjoyable. And I can't... I assume there's a lot of characters who just pop in and out. And I assume that's the rest of the TV series cast who, doesn't have enough time to explain. And the first and biggest problem is that I can't get behind the main motivation of having sympathy for Alex's his drive to get this house, because it's not going to be oh, it's my house forever. It's just no, this is my house for senior year, and. Right. I assume he's already been partying. This isn't some repressed kid who can finally cut loose after senior year. He's been doing this all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's just what is your sense of ownership in this house? I don't get it. And they don't really do much of explaining on his behalf. It's a given. Oh, I need to get this house. Okay, I don't see why. There's a particular problem with the conceit of Thad, who he makes the film a little bit more interesting because he kind of stirs the pot of chaos, but it's a little bit too much. And the fact that he's the number one draft pick, and yet what happens later isn't announced in the news, it isn't brought up at all. It's wait a minute, what the hell? I feel like these people were filming in chronological order. They were starting at filming it at first, and I don't know how to end this film. Just say this, and then that's it. And this is just terrible. There's really offensive. There's racist jokes. There's Like there's dick jokes. There's like, oh, here's the naked man. We're gonna like show to you like for a cheap laugh for at the end of the movie, and it just feels. I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to be feeling for these people. And like there's even this one scene of like the character who came out as gay is talking to the lesbian girlfriend, and it's like, and she's like, well, I'm lesbian, and he goes, no, you're really not, this is just a phase. It's like, well, that's not your fucking choice, man. Like, you don't get to say what she's feeling. And I was just really I was drained by the end of this. I was like, wow. If this started, for instance, I thought this was gonna like give me pull that barely lethal effect, where it's like, okay, man, it's gonna start out not on the footing that I want to go with, but I'll try to get into the rhythm of it. I'll try to feel my way around it, and you know, it might get great. This was not it, and I have to say, this is not a film I'd recommend seeing.
Well, that's fair. It was more of a little experimentation. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. It was more of a show I watched at a time where it was a guilty pleasure for me. But I see where you come from. I do know. I completely understand. It's not a great movie. It doesn't have a whole lot of redeeming qualities to it. It certainly had its moments.
Did you like it?
Did I like it? I was like in the middle. Honestly, I have a weird place for that show in my heart. I know it's not a good show. I know it's not for everybody. I thought it was decent in terms of like them doing another kind of spin-off from the show. I know that it's not great. I know it's not for everyone. I know it's not well written. I know it's offensive, but I oddly liked it in a way. There were some interesting moments there, but don't get me wrong. This does not affect my my thoughts and opinions on other stuff. CH is like on the floor, like, what the fuck?
I'm sorry, I had something crazy in my ear. Did you say that you enjoyed this?
It's some respect. Some of it was a little bit too much even for me. Even some of the crazy stuff you mentioned, where it was like the guy came out as gay, and then also Thad was like gave him like a man gay slave, a sex slave.
The fuck?
It was a little out there. Honestly, like it's hard for me to distinguish because I know it's not as bad. It's also bad writing, but there's also some little moments sprinkled in there there was some truth to. There's some caricatures. There's also some parodies of certain topics that go on, yes, especially with the college and things like of coming out. That was there was some sprinkle of that. There were some moments of what could have been some decent comedy that was completely overshadowed by some of the other stupid things that are going on in the movie. But honestly, it's more of it's more of garbage. A garbage viewing experience that I had to preview you to. I needed to see what you thought of the movie, just for the sake of this discussion. I know it's not great. I'm not going to recommend it to anybody. That's just kind of my own weird taste that I have. I have some weird off the rails taste with some of these things. But pretty much it was like we mentioned, I thought it was for the budget that they have, it was really well shot. It was really well done in some of the scenes. There's some. They didn't even talk about the scene where Sammy gets raped by the goat.
You know what? That that might have been the tipping point. Yeah. I don't begrudge that. I did have some chuckles.
Yeah, there were some chuckles.
I had a couple of chuckles where I was like, that's pretty creative. I like that. But then they do something to undercut that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that.
I thought, you know, the character that I really did want to see more of was the black coach who, you know, was sensitive. He's like, I'm a human being too, and I just want some respect. And I wanted to see him do, because I'm like, yes, I feel for you, because these sons of bitches don't respect me for wasting so much time. And it's there are moments where I do like it. I do chuckle, and I do think there is something to be said about, very much like Community, where there are moments of like, okay, talking about a real issue or dealing with something that's kind of not really been addressed yet. And this one is coming out, and the idea of, for the character, the first one is the woman who's lesbian, who is having conflicting feelings, and the other one who comes out as gay. I don't want to spoil it. Screw it. It's
No,
how many people are going to be watching Welcome to Thadland or whatever, Thadland Rumbles, or The Rise of Thadland? It's the kind of fat.
This will be one of the reviews will be out. I don't even know if this review is out there for this, but we will be in the pot of reviews for this movie.
That is an issue of like, okay, he's coming out as gay, and like people are embracing him for that. But the thing is that it's an interesting topic, because like, okay, he doesn't want people to make this an issue. He doesn't want it to be an issue, because he doesn't want people to treat him like that. And that's an interesting point of view. Unfortunately, they are very, very small parts in this movie that felt like it felt like a 90s movie with like maybe today's sensibilities on culture, and I just really could not dig it. There was just
yeah.
No,
I understand
the gross out humor of them making drugs out of the getting high off of like a septic tank gases that are made, and it's like there were some pretty funny scenes. I did laugh at the threesome scene where they.
Oh yeah, that one was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny when they were doing drugs off of, like, it was kind of like it was like compressed air out of like a balloon, kind of like that. It wasn't like helium, but it was some kind of drug it had like a substitute of like just air. And you later find out the movie was made out of the sewage, or out of some kind of nasty thing, out of the gases of people's shits, so to say. Keep it blunt and vulgar like that. And then Alex, and then the girl who's on the fence, and the girl that she's dating at the time. They already took the drug, but it just kind of hit them all of a sudden. It has, he mentioned it has a different effect on everyone, and then they had this whole scene of them having a threesome, like this, luscious, very sensual, like it's like they're in heaven, like all glowy and everything. And then in real life, they're just like make it like they're like it cuts back to them just kind of like
writhing on the ground,
and they're like. They look like they're super out of it, and there's like two guys watching them, and then there's two other guys watching the guys watching them.
And like the blonde girl who's like dumb as dishwater is just like thrusting in the air.
Yeah,
that was a moment I chuckled at, and that was a moment I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. I really wish the rest of the movie was as good as this, but it just felt like. Maybe it was like just wrapping up a lot of stuff, and they had to be a little bit more direct and blunt. And I feel like a lot of the swearing, they say fuck a lot. They say, a lot of cruder humor than I think they would have been able to get away with on Spike TV. And I think they should have maybe kept that back, because like how Deadpool uses the gratuitous stuff for a reason. This felt like just gratuity for gratuity's sake.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot like that too on the show. It's very similar. It's more like a spinoff of the show. Honestly, I know it's not the best quality of content out there. I do know this. Don't get me wrong. Don't judge people. It is a extreme. If there's something lower than guilty pleasure, that's what this movie is for me.
Sinful pleasure.
It's sinful pleasure. I know it can be very overbearing. I know that that is very overbearing and obnoxious to the point where it's like I don't even know if I can watch it sometimes. He's just it's such like a cartoon character sometimes. Even more beyond that, I don't even know what goes beyond that. There was also a little interesting moment too. They kind of did like a Christmas Carol or a Wonderful Life kind of no, not Wonderful. They did kind of like a Christmas Carol thing, like Ghost of Future Past kind of. They had a moment of that. That one was kind of interesting. And also it harkened back to his motivations on why he wanted the goat house, which was for selfish reasons throughout the whole time, because he was always under Thad's shadow, because he was the quarterback. Even though he was a quarterback, it didn't really make him necessarily the top dog, because Thad was the top dog at the time. And now that he's not there anymore, he was kind of wanted to have his claim to being the top dog on the team and in the college as that's mainly his motivations on keeping the goat house. And also it was for selfish reasons too, and he kind of realized that he's gonna end up losing what something good that he might have had with the other girl. That was a little bit of a sprinkle there too, but that's just a stretch.
Yeah, it's it's along the lines of him realizing his status as a football player as well as what he wants with the house is not really done for the noblest of reasons for the Ghost of Christmas Future segment, but also they also touch upon the kind of hallowed and true story of like, listen, sometimes college is the best time of people's lives, and then they do nothing after that. And you don't want to end up like Thad, who is probably going to end up exactly like this.
Yeah, that was a sense of a little bit of actual writing going into the movie, but that's about it. And then also we had a cameo from he was also in the show too originally, and then I don't know what the circumstances were, he ended up not leaving the show. His character ended up leaving the show too, but the guy, I don't remember his name, but he was on Smallville. He was at Clark Kent's. He was Clark Kent's friend. I don't know if you remember him. He was in there for a little bit because it's like a little nod from him when he was on the show. I think for the first 2 seasons, or something like that. About having the best ab. He came to the Thad line to having the best ab contest because Alex after that whole ordeal of them thinking they were having the threesome off the drugs, and he woke up like in the middle of a cornfield, and it was like I guess 3 days had passed or something, and then he ended up stumbling upon him for like the most convenient of ways of him just driving up and say, "Hey."
That they certainly have that come out of left field.
Certainly, but to wrap this up,
I'm going to have one of those sinful pleasures too.
I know you will. Yeah.
And don't you dare not give me crap on that, because I will definitely be like, no, it's totally like this, and I'll look back and I'll be like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think we all have that. I'm not too ashamed of it, but I will share it out there with the world that this is something that is a sinful pleasure for me. I'm looking forward. I want to do another one of this when we get the chance to record next week. I want to hear what you got. If you have one right now, you can definitely tell me, or when we're off, and we'll bring it up on the next podcast that we do, and of us watching it. So to wrap up here, it is not a film for everyone. It's certainly very much a Spike TV show, like you said. Definition of a Spike TV show.
There's not a single shot without a girl in a bikini in there somewhere.
And
not a bad thing, though.
True, but it doesn't make for an enjoyable viewing experience, especially for CH. But in the end, I will give this a slight thumbs up. with some conditions in place. A lot of outlandish humor, not the good kind of outlandish humor, but very much like how we describe Friday Night Lights meets American Pie or Community. There's that. If you ever just want to give it a shot, go ahead. I wouldn't recommend it. I know it's a hard sell, and I think CH is an ingredient that Barely Lethal is a better film than this.
I You know what? I would say that. I will very much say that, and I think this is not the worst comedy I've seen this year. That belongs to Ridiculous Six. But I will say that this is not a very, for me, it's not a well-written comedy. I don't feel, maybe if you have like a connection to the TV show, it will be better since they do wrap up a lot of people's stories. There's a few chuckles to be had. I'd give it a rental at the most.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
very fair. I didn't expect you to come out of this enjoying every single second of it. I know it was a hard sell to begin with, and especially you throwing you into the unbeknownst with this film. It was a hard sell from the beginning, and I knew that this wasn't going to be something that we were going to have mainly positive thoughts on. It's a very much a definition of a sinful pleasure for me. I will admit that. Even the show is a little bit too. I think it's on Netflix, but if you get the chance, maybe pop in an episode, CH.
This movie certainly has made a fan out of me. I can't wait to sit on down and just binge watch all of them.
Yeah, the co-creators of the show were in the movie. It was Sammy, he's the co-creator, and also there's a guy that you see. It doesn't have any dialogue, but he's a guy you see at the very end of the movie at the bar with the beer that was watching the news occur. But that was him. Fun fact.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I did follow this show and a little bit of kind of what they've done. It hasn't been a lot after this, but I've followed a little bit of who they were and what they're about. It's certainly interesting experience. I'm at least for the fact I'm very happy that at least there's a successful Kickstarter out of this. I know that it's not for everyone, but at least for those who supported it and wanted to see it, I certainly would like to get their curious to see their thoughts on it. But it's very cool to see a Kickstarter actually come to fruition, especially with how much of a risk it is, and a lot of bad things occurring and not fulfilling the demands that the promises they've made kind of go all the way. I mean, we'll have to see what happens with the Star Citizen. I think that's always a continuing thing. And also Mighty Number 9, which got delayed again.
Yeah,
that was another Kickstarter project too.
For Mighty Number 9 and a lot of the video game stuff, let's best not to count the chickens before they hatch. And if I can say anything, I will say that I am glad that fans of the series could get at least a finale, an ending, something to wrap up storylines and leave the show, leave the fans with something to enjoy.
Yeah, I certainly would have enjoyed that too if they did that for. I always bring it up, but the one show that I really enjoyed that they had a lot of potential and could have revitalized careers. It's the Christian Slater show, my own worst enemy. It ended on such a good cliffhanger, and I think that could have done wonders for him, like it did Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man. I think the My Own Worst Enemy, that is a very apt title. Yes.
And to be on the positive side, Christian Slater, he's one of those well-respected actors in TV where he's like constantly in shows because people know he can act. Like for Mr. Robot, apparently he's the mentor of the main protagonist, and he's doing very, very well there.
Right.
And I'm happy for him. There's a bunch of shows I would have liked to see get continuations of another season or at least a movie. Almost Human, Jericho. There was one that I was really, really pumped for. Twin Peaks is coming back, so they're not exactly done with that. There's I can't remember what the name of it was. That's a sign of a great show. But there's always been these shows that get canceled too early, and the fans, they never had an outlet before of like, oh man, I wish I could pay money or do something to help get the finances in check for another iteration of the show, and now they can with at least some crowdfunding stuff. So that makes me happy to see.
Yeah.
Tick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's anything good that can come out of this, is that there is hope for those that want to see their some kind of slight continuation or send off for a TV show that got canceled. So there's something good that came out of this movie. That's the only good positive thing.
You gotta see the bright side of life.
Yes.
It's and so yeah, I would. I mean, I guess it's one of those things. Like for me, I've been burned before on coming back from fan demand. Like for instance, Family Guy, I thought got a whole lot worse after it came back after the third season, and Arrested Development. I love that show, but that fourth season, I was like, wow, this is a chore. I can't believe. It's like, okay, one of the things that people loved about that show is like, oh, it's the family relationship. It's everyone playing off each other. And then it's like, oh, I got an idea. Why don't we have none of that? And just have like everyone doing their own individual thing. It's like, well, it's not really the show. Well, it doesn't matter. We already made it.
Yeah, I know that was one of the prime examples of something that wasn't too high on your kind of thoughts on when it came back, especially with much of the kind of fan feedback on bringing back shows and keeping them alive in some way or wrapping them up, much like Community was when they ended up moving to the Hulu right now, right? Or Yahoo or something. 4
seasons and a movie, I think, was their mantra. But I think that they're on Yahoo now, and they have at least, I think, 5 seasons now, and I think they're thinking about a movie.
Oh, okay. But I mean, I can't. I never seen the show. I never had any attachment, so it's good for those who.
I'm sorry.
It's good for those who've seen the show and like it to want to see more of it. So I can't really go against that.
For Community, it's weird because I've seen the show and I like it. I don't really love it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those shows where it's like, okay, I don't have a problem with it. It's not like a Big Bang Theory where it's like I detest the very ground you walk upon. Ugh. You are absolutely worthless. Like I think it's just like, okay, it's a show. A lot of people like it. It's not for me.
I do not have any interest of seeing that show either.
It's. But yeah, I mean, at least in the very least, for Blue Mountain State, for Serenity, even like for something like for Hellboy 2, because of all the fan desire to see something new to come out of it. At least there's now an outlet for fans to at least get a little bit more experience and closure.
Yeah, so that's the best thing we can get out of it. So, I know you mentioned before you wanted to see Rush Hour 2 at some point. Is there a movie that you wanted to recommend for next week, or do you want to get back to me on that on a later time, and we'll just talk about it on the next one we record?
I don't have a film at the moment to think about.
That's fine. I just wanted to bring that out there in case you did. I guess that'll be pretty much about it. I wanted to go through real quick on kind of what I've been playing before we end up wrapping up today. If you have anything, feel free to mention it. I got the chance to play the Hitman beta.
Oh, cool!
I had to play a little bit of it. It's not very long, but it's pretty much kind of getting you into the sense of what you're going to be expecting from the forthcoming release. I think about a week or two before Batman v Superman. So on March 11th is the initial release date of when they're going to come out with, I think, the prologue and I think an episode or something. It says it's going to be episodic. It just feels incredibly weird to me. They even thought to discuss my excitement for this game because it's going to be episodic. I'd rather just get the whole thing and just let me play the goddamn thing. But it's going to be broken apart into like episodes with levels and missions. And I love Hitman. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like this model that they're going with.
Yeah,
it looks very promising. I will tell you that there's 2 different levels in this game. They're both pretty much kind of training levels and kind of kind of get you a little bit in the sense of how the game plays and just kind of what you're going to be expecting. I don't know what the whole game's going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be an entire game about how 47 became an agent, but from what I played so far, I kind of already got the sense that they're gonna have a mission in this game included into this bundle. As you know, you play, you get to see some cinematics as how 47 became. How he joined the agency, but it doesn't really go beyond that point. There's cutscenes in between the levels that are very kind of short, but there's not much else to go off of. I don't know if this is going to be a soft reboot or not, because they haven't really stated or said anything different that I don't already know about the Hitman mythos, other than that it takes place after he escaped the facility he was bred out of, and that's really all about it. He decides to join the agency, but the people that Diana's there and the other person that's with him. The other person that's with him is unsure if he's ready to even become an agent, and they don't know where he's from because he has no records. I've been being kind of a genetically engineered individual with such arts and skills of assassination. So you kind of get put to the test of if you can work. And Diana kind of sees something in 47 and kind of puts herself out there to give him a chance, and that's how and then by the end of this kind of two level tutorial kind of mission, which is kind of seems to be from what I played, that's kind of, you pass them and then you get a cutscene of them discussing what had transpired and going against the other guy to enable to show off that he can do the work, and he kind of becomes an agent. It's kind of a little bit not as exciting to see as I would have thought as well. I mean, that's always been the mythos of how the kind of mystery, the mystique of how he became, how he ended up joining the agency in the first place. That wasn't necessarily anything I wanted to see, because I don't know how exciting you can get it or make it to be, but it was done decently well. I know David Bateson is still doing the voice of 47. They're very, very excited to hear his voice. He's very much synonymous, like Sam Fisher is to the Michael Ironside is to Sam Fisher. I was talking about Sam Fisher like he was a person, like Michael Ironside is to Sam Fisher and Nathan Drake and Nolan North. Very much synonymous with those characters. They made those characters what they are, and provided some level of a good amount of success for the franchises. But it's good to hear his voice, and from what I played so far is very, very good and very promising. A lot of the gameplay and the level design that they're hinting at is very much of the essence of Blood Money. It's very much Blood Money on next gen consoles. I cannot really ask for more. Yeah. There's a lot of AIs on, what was the word again? But there's a lot of NPCs. That's the word. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of NPCs on screen. Even for those small little missions you get, you do a mission on on the side of on a yacht that hasn't even really taken off yet. It's just kind of there. It's like a party at a yacht, and there's a little bit of room also, as well, like on the pier a little bit, as to kind of get around to getting in the yacht and also getting around it. Very much like Blood Money, this one doesn't seem as linear as Absolution was. There's plenty of ways to get inside where you need to go and eliminate your target. I've only ever seen 2 ways so far, but I'm sure there's maybe another one. But for it being a tutorial mission, I don't see there being too much ways to accomplish these. But it's a very good indicator that they're actually going back to the roots of Hitman, and actually this is pretty much just Blood Money on the next gen consoles, which is kind of always what I always wanted in terms of the gameplay. I just have to see what they're gonna approach, the narrative with, if there's going to be any narrative at all with the way that they're touting the release schedules of being episodic and everything. So that remains to be seen, but it's very much Blood Money. It plays very well, and I can't ask for more. See, it's just very much Blood Money on the next gen consoles. That's all I ever wanted. I can't complain.
Great.
Very much looking forward to it.
I'm not entirely thrilled that it's broken up into episodic games, but at least it's a good indicator of where the game reboot is kind of going and how it's being incorporated.
Yeah, it's very well polished, and it's also has the same elements as Blood Money. You can pretty much carry an unlimited amount of items on your person, except for like big automatic rifles. Those you can't really sneak inside in your jacket. But the other stuff, and it has even the mechanics of the coins from Blood Money that I rarely ever use, but sometimes they were actually really helpful to attract guards to a certain spot you want them to be, so that you can get them and then knock them out and take their disguise. And this is a little bit more better the way they do the disguise system, a lot better than actually they did with Absolution. When you get the disguise, there's only going to be maybe like, it depends on how big the level is, but there'll be maybe like a handful of guards that if they see you in disguise that you're in, and you're in their line of sight for long enough, they will notice you that you're suspicious. And this can work very well. I mean, this is kind of what they wanted to do with Absolution, but I think there was a little bit too much the way they did it. It's almost like every person knew you knew that you weren't who you said you were. You weren't a part of the crew. But there's dots on certain people's heads that maybe, like, if you disguise yourself as a dock worker, if a certain dock worker with an indicator on their head sees you long enough in their plane of sight, they will spot you on and report you as suspicious, and that's kind of the cycle begins from there. They start looking for you, and you could die really easily in this game too. Not like Blood Money. You get shot like 2 or 3 times in this game, you're dead. It's really you don't outlast bullets very much like Blood Money. I feel like you could take a bunch of bullets, especially when you take the drug and you're like going in slow motion and then trying to survive. It's not even close to that anymore. But they're doing the disguise system, they're handling it very well, and it's not as annoying as kind of it was in Absolution. You constantly have to like position your way to not be seen by the person you're disguising as. So like in Absolution, there's a bunch of cops everywhere, and you can't really get past any of them because they knew they would blow your disguise if you even get in their sight.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very few of those, which is good. And then there's certain disguises you can use to access certain parts of the level that you have to kind of keep on switching. And there's no really this constant display indicator of your score or anything like that. It doesn't like do it like Absolution, where you knock out a guy, it's like you knocked him out, you didn't kill him, you got minus 5,000, and then you put him in a shed, and then you get an extra 10,000. Like that stuff bothered the hell out of me, because I felt like I was doing something wrong or something, that I don't know what they were expecting of me. But there's no constant display indicator of like any kind of point system at all. I think it's more about the fundamentals, like it was in Blood Money. Did you get caught? Did anyone see you? Did anyone suspect anything? That's going to be your criteria, as if you're going to get the highest rating, which is the Silent Assassin.
It sounds like they're putting a little bit more emphasis back into the stealth segment, which is I think very, very good choice for them to go with focused, go with some freedom of expression, but definitely focusing a lot on, like, you get the better score if you stick to kind of what the crux of the main game is all about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can play this game as many multifaceted ways as you want. If you really want to challenge yourself and get that Silent Assassin rating, which is not impossible to do, but certainly very challenging, you have to be very meticulous and very, very strategizing and pay attention to a lot of the AI patterns. It's definitely accomplishable, and if you want to get those achievements or trophies, then you can absolutely have many ways, strategies and tools to accomplish that, and that's absolutely the most fun way to play, is to kind of aim for that Silent Assassin rating, because it's not as fun to just go in and start shooting everybody. It's not as fun. You want to be actually smart about it.
Well, I will certainly remember that the next time I pick up Hitman and think like, no, don't worry, I could just mow these guys down with a machine gun dressed as a giant chicken.
Yeah, that was a little bit of the darker humor for it. I didn't get a sense of that as much with this one. Like Absolution, like that was my favorite in terms of like the NPC dialogues and just the way the characters were kind of portrayed and written. Is very much, so we talked about, very much written in with like a lot of Tarantino-esque dialogue. It seemed like I didn't get the sense too much on this one, but although this is just
slightly eccentric, not enough to go cartoonish, but just like enough to be like, wow, that's an oddity.
Yeah, enough to be kind of a little bit self-aware, a little bit not as serious, compared to kind of more of the stone-faced character and reserved character of 47. Is that it's nice to have those NPCs and you kind of figuring out ways to eliminate someone and also kind of hear that in the background to kind of keep you edging. It doesn't feel like it's completely soulless.
Yeah, that certainly a very nice thing to have is a little touch of personality, especially since Agent 40, kind of like almost the inverse of Deadpool's problem, where it's like Agent 47 is kind of all about the action, not a lot of personality, so a lot of personality has to come from the world, and then like the small actions he does is what really defines him.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. So I'm very excited. I'm not as worried as I maybe once was about this project. As much as I love seeing titles of Hitman come out, it's proven to be very successful. Even if it was a little bit polarizing in terms of absolution, there's still enough of Hitman to go out there. There hasn't been completely burnt out just quite yet, to the extent of not wanting to see another release, because we hardly ever get a lot of releases for that, because that game's always spread out. They always wanted to take their time with it. IO is very particular about that, and yeah, it's not necessarily any kind of yearly release title. It ain't no Assassin's Creed, so I'm kind of happy about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly think that they understand that they have a good fan base that will support them, and that their investments will be wisely done, no matter what kind of type of release that they'll have. I mean, Hitman Go was hugely popular.
Yeah, it was very fun, and I know that it's coming out on consoles too, which is very interesting to see. Yeah. It's very cool. I like that little mobile game a lot, and I know they did a spiritual successor to that, like with doing the Lara Croft too. They were doing that Lara Croft Go as well, kind of similar in that aspect of a top-down mobile game with Lara Croft. So that formula in and of itself, in terms of the mobile game they're kind of doing, it worked out well for them with Hitman Go. I think it was really well done. Yeah, beyond that, that's kind of all I had the chance to partake a little bit in playing, and I'm kind of glad that I got to experience the beta a little bit more, and I'm at ease to how the game's going to turn out.
Yeah, well, I really hope that Hitman, the new Hitman game, turns out to be a great reinvention and time well spent.
Absolutely. Have you had the chance to kind of partake into any gaming adventures, CH? Did you get the chance? I know you mentioned possibly. You don't have to get into it too much, but I know you mentioned that you were, I think, going to end up getting started on the Witcher DLC.
Oh yes. I'm well into that one, actually. I decided to take my hand at that, and it is really good. I'm past the Frog Prince.
How was that?
Oh man, that was fun. That was that reminded me. You know what? The biggest contributor, I think, to the DLC was they took a look at Dark Souls, and just like saying, like, okay, you gotta memorize animations, you gotta memorize timing. You got to understand how to beat these guys in a very particular way, for the bosses anyway. And they did a very good job at increasing the difficulty, but also keeping the writing very good. I did love the merriment that was had at the wedding party, and I think I understood what people's problems were with some dialogue that Geralt says, but then I realized, is like, wait a minute, this is okay. So slight spoiler, cover your ears. But Geralt is slightly is controlled by another character who is this kind of skirt chasing, pompous, chest pounding jerk, and he's trying to be very have a lot of bravado, but because he is Geralt's a Witcher, his emotions are already blunted. So while that can come off as like kind of maybe stilted acting, I thought that was a really smart thing that they did, because like, oh, it's him. He's trying to express himself, but it's coming off as very, very weird and very off-kiltered.
Yeah, that impression could be easily noticed on kind of maybe some kind of well, especially out of context. I know when I saw I think a piece of footage of that, it seemed a little bit. It seemed a little bit questionable, but with the context in place, it makes complete sense, and it actually was kind of one of the many other highlights to see a side of Geralt that you don't normally see.
Hmm. And it's I would say it's certainly a fun game so far, and definitely like just the price of investment alone of just how much content I've already gotten out of it, and I'm not even done with it. I don't think I'm anywhere close to being done with it. Is really really good and presents a lot of interesting characters. The Mirror Man, I thought that's a really great character.
Yeah,
Master of Mirrors.
yeah, he's very interesting. I cannot say, I cannot give as much. I can't give enough praises to the game as I've already have with the written review I've done so far. I'm glad you're enjoying it and got past the Frog Prince. That's like the barrier of entry for that DLC. Beyond that point, you're pretty solid. They do level out the enemy types a good amount. You'll discover some newer enemy types as you progress that make the experience a little bit more challenging, and not have it kind of be this kind of experience where your character's already like leveled out by the point you ended up starting that DLC, where you feel like you're kind of at a overpowering state at this point. Because I've gotten that experience myself with just not even playing this DLC, but with just kind of like going back and finishing some side quests and doing some Witcher contracts that I picked up very early in the game that I never really got to. And I just with you being very at a high level, some of those Witcher contracts are set for you to do at a certain level throughout the game. So me being like level 30 doesn't necessarily make the best of challenge if you're gonna do a Witcher contract on like a level 10. So it's kind of very you can kind of kill those kind of bosses and monsters you're slaying for some coin very easily when you're at that high of a level. Mm-hmm. But being able to go into that DLC with possibility of getting more richer contracts that are going to be at the same level that you're at right now makes it a little bit more tempting to go through. And also even regular enemy types you encounter, like I don't know if you've encountered the spiders yet, but those are kind of newer enemy types I think they included in there. They're a bit more, they require a little bit more strategy than you're simply just slashing everybody. Then I find the human enemies a little bit more challenging to fight than the actual monsters, because at least with the monsters, they don't necessarily have too much of a defense. They're usually more of a offensive enemy types, but compared to the humans, they're always on the defense, and there's always multiples of them, and always a pain in the ass when the archers are shooting bows at you and you try to kill somebody.
They certainly the grouping is what gets me more than the difficulty, just because like you'll time a parry just right, like okay, I'll kick them back and then cut back with a attack, but it's like you parry and then like a guy with the damn spear just like charges at you and like sticks you right in the back.
Yeah, those battles require a lot more patience, because the enemies don't easily let you get a lot of hits in them before they start blocking, and beyond that point, you're it's hard. You lose your rhythm. They'll put up their shields, and then Geralt hits their shields, and then as an effect, his sword just kind of bounces back at him. He tries to regains his balance, and it's one of the most annoying but also challenging parts of the Witcher, especially fighting the human enemies in groups as well. You just got to do a lot of parrying and avoid getting hit by crossbows, and get like a hit or two on them, and just kind of a little bit of a rinse and repeat with that. But you got to there's the spells, there's the signs that help as well. And I never was much of a potion guy in the game, so I hardly ever used potions to kind of maybe get the upper hand. They maybe could have helped against some of those enemy types, but I never really invested too much to read up upon what weaknesses a certain monster has in the game, and to kind of prepare myself before I even proceed.
Mm.
I never. It was. I'm sure it was a lot helpful if you did it, if maybe on a harder difficulty. But I never sought the need to do it because it's just I didn't want to bother, and I just kind of fought them, and whatever worked, and just improvised. That's the kind of way I was playing.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
it's and some of them are a bit easier to figure out in terms of like getting ready. But the problem is you don't really know how to get your potions and like types of
yeah,
mutagens ready until you actually go meet them, and then you can only really learn on the offset. So I would say I'm more of a sword guy, so and not much of magic, but you definitely got to get a good feeling of all of them in terms of taking on the new enemy types.
yeah. You had to get a lot of like manuscripts, well, a lot of a lot of potion ingredients, and also you had to actually look for the ingredients in the world. You never really had an idea where to find them, and there's a lot of them that I didn't even know existed until I was looking at the potion requirements. You need like lily rosemary's, and it's like I don't know where the hell this is. I don't even know where to find it. How am I ever gonna make this potion unless I look it up online? It's one of the things I didn't bother too much with it. I'm sure there's advantages and disadvantages with it, but I just didn't really touch it as much as I would have liked to. I didn't get too invested in that aspect, but glad to see you got past the Frog Prince. That there was, like I mentioned, there was hints of Dark Souls there. There was enough there for it to work in the game. I felt like the combat is very better than how it was in Witcher 2. There's still some more minor improvements they could have made to maybe make it a little bit more polished, especially what they were going for with that boss battle. And I know you went through that aspect as well, like what I told you before, where you get too close to him or do too much attacks and get greedy, and the frog does that big splash, and then it sends Geralt flying backwards, and then you have to wait like 5 seconds for him to recover, and you go through his animation of like, oh shit, I just got blown back, and I gotta catch myself and get my balance back, and then you're waiting for that. It's like come on, and you can't move or anything. It's just all like an animation of him regaining his balance.
It's like, you son of a bitch, I put up Quen. You should be fine.
Yeah. But I'm very much excited that you're investing some more time into that. Did you get to meet Olgierd yet?
Olgierd von Emmerich, yes.
Olgierd von Emmerich, who looks like David Beckham.
Yes, he does. And he's a very, very interesting character. Kind of a charming bastard who is just so sick of life. He's trying to find anything that's even kind of the slightest bit enjoyable, at least from the part that I could see. And that he's been alive so long that since he may or may not be immortal, but he's been alive for so long that he has there's a sensibility that he has a plan, and don't tell me if I'm right or wrong yet, but that he has a plan that just so kind of far outside the scope of what you can understand from a normal person's life, that it's out on the fringes.
Yeah, well, I won't say too much, but he's a very interesting character. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on the specific mission you do for him. Where you go to his old family mansion, and you get to see the backstory of him. And
I'm out there.
Oh, you're there? Oh man.
The caretaker. Oh boy, that was some Pan's Labyrinth type of design right there.
Yeah, with the kind of guardian figures there at the mansion with the cat.
The cat and the dog.
The cat and the dog there. I don't know if you finished that one completely yet, but you'll be at that mansion there for kind of a little bit to kind of get your sense of a backstory, and I think there's some kind of item needed there. But you put together, you pick up certain items that trigger memories that you see, and you get to kind of walk around and kind of see them unfold in front of you, and you also see them in cutscenes too. Those are cool little mixes there.
I'm currently trying to figure out how to kill the witch, who the specter who keeps shaping in and out, and like I don't know what I'm supposed to do, because she keeps on regenerating from the paintings, and she'll kill you really quickly, and you also can't do the circle protection, the purple spell. to keep her locked in like the other Spectre. So I'm just trying to figure out how to beat her.
Yeah, I think you encounter a couple of those along the way as well afterwards. Once you figure it out, it's pretty simple. It's not too bad. It's they come out of the paintings and then you attack them to the certain point where they're gonna end up running back to the paintings. I don't know if you want me to tell you, but it's not a game breaking or spoiler thing to say, but it's just a little. It's just a tip to tell you. You pretty much just hit the painting. That's all.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You get to the painting they came out of before they do. You just pretty much hit it, and then that'll be it. They'll prevent them from going back in there and regenerating. That one got me too, but it's not too bad than I thought it would be. Just a little pro tip there, CH.
You've got it. Well, I shall apply that to my Witcher 3 experience, and I'm really looking forward to finishing up the quest because this is really interesting story. I like the auction house.
Oh yeah, that one was cool too. That was very funny.
Very very good fleshing out of characters. The they choose the painting for the painting snob was one that I particularly was interested in. Because like the other ones, I couldn't care if I got the right answer or not. But for him, it's like, oh, you thought that was the painting? You must be stupid. I just be like, you son of a bitch, and just like loaded the last save. Like, it's that one. How'd you guess? I don't know, because I'm smart, unlike you. Now get out of my face.
Yeah, that one bothered me too. I didn't bother to go back to load it because I don't think I saved at the right time. So I would have to have gone probably half an hour to get to that point just to prove him wrong. But I let him have it.
I'm very worried and insecure about my save, so I have it set to every 5 minutes is an autosave.
Yeah, I try to do that too, but for some reason I just didn't even cross my mind to do it. I was just so into it that I didn't even focus about saving. It's interesting to see how that part of the auction house plays out too, because I think you may be able to play it earlier than before you beat the game or before pivotal moments in the main story. Because I know you end up talking to a woman at the auction house that knew Vesemir.
Mm-hmm.
And that one can go maybe a certain way if depending on how far you get in the story, in terms of what you tell her about Vesemir.
Yeah, I got after the big hubbub happened.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting story.
We'll have to see. But beyond that point, I'm very much excited to hear your thoughts on the conclusion of the Von Emmerich mansion estate quest, especially with the wife. She had a very very well written story, very beautifully tragic.
Really looking forward to it.
Well, Bill, yeah, that's
beautifully tragic. That should have been the subtitle for Witcher 3, not Wild Hunt.
Yeah, beautifully tragic. But yeah, but I'm glad to hear it. Did you have anything else that you had the chance to play, or is that kind of a good amount there?
That's really it. I was looking at apartments, but I will be enjoying a little bit more of The Witcher 3, and I'll try to finish it up before me next time.
Independent CH looking for apartments, eh?
Yes, indeedy. Trying to get that lovely apartment where I can my own piece of land, four walls and a ceiling,
where you can scratch your pits and your stomach with no risk of discrimination.
No,
that's the American way. I
tell you, that's the last time I was allowed in that Chuck E. Cheese.
There you go. But yeah, beyond that point, I'm absolutely thrilled that we got to discuss a little bit more of the Hearts of Stone DLC and then talk about the movie we saw together in conjunction to a good movie we saw, which was that we both saw was Deadpool, and we got a little bit of discussions on that and our impressions on the last Batman v Superman trailer. I say this was a well worth podcast to wait and discuss these fantastic topics.
Yes, indeed. Worth the wait, net gain.
There you go. But beyond that point, CH, if you don't have anything else further, we'll go ahead and wrap up this tremendous podcast episode 179 people. This has been an amazing turnout of such amazing topics we got covered here today. Looking forward to see what you decide that we should watch and discuss on the next podcast. Feel free to message me about it, and I'll do my best to watch it before we do record on the next one.
Yeah, it's looking for. Also, just letting you know, we'll be thinking of some new movies to watch for. So for next time to talk about it. I don't know if it's going to be as good as Blue Mountain State, but we'll certainly try.
I think it will be for you. I think anything at this point will be better than that.
Well, I'll be keeping an eye out for it.
Alrighty. So well, check us out on iTunes, folks. Bloody Thumbs Podcast on the BGB.com, BloodyThumbsPodcast.com. audibletrial.com/bloodythumbs. The offer's still valid for as long as I say it is, to get your free audio book, and it'll help us out for many things, many faceted ways. That the compensation that we get for referring you find folks listening at home is well worth the time and effort for you to go get a free audio book. I don't see this is a win-win situation for everybody. I don't know how this is a net loss for anybody with this amazing, tremendous offer.
It's a great offer for us. It also gives you some audiobooks. Audiobooks are fantastic. Love them. I'm currently reading Endymion by Dan Simmons, or listening to Endymion. So I recommend that one.
Absolutely. So thank you so much again, CH, for stopping by. Everybody else who, if anyone had a chance to tune in, I didn't have the screen up. I see there's a person out there. They're lurking, but I don't see them. I don't see their name. But thank you for listening, and check us out on BloodyThumbsPodcast.com for all the latest videos, podcasts, and articles that we got going on there. With CH's article on Soma that we had discussed about not too long ago. Feel free to check that out. And without further ado, take it easy, everybody. I am Swinner47 signing off. We'll see you on the next one.
I am CH Gorog. Have a wonderful day.